In the last episode, I told you about how the Hat Man revealed himself to me in 1995 to let me know that my best friend Ruben belonged to him. Just a few weeks later, Ruben seemed to confirm what the Hat Man had revealed to me. Welcome to Vibration State. I'm Jason Dale. In part one of this story, my best friend Ruben saw the Hat Man while riding as a passenger in my Camaro. In part two, I come face to face with the Hat Man while Ruben is staying as a guest in my house. Tonight in part three, I want to tell you about the strange things that happened right before Ruben moved out of my house. If you haven't already heard part one and part two, I recommend you go and listen to those episodes first and then come back to this one. Welcome back to early 1995. Again, this was my junior year of high school. My friend Ruben has now been living at my house for the last 2 to 3 weeks. During the weekdays, I'm at school. Ruben had dropped out of school and is now working part-time at a car dealership that's within walking distance from my house. For the last few weeks, we had settled into a routine, and to my surprise, Ruben and I are not hanging out much together. It feels like we don't really resonate with each other as we had before. Ruben now has a girlfriend that he spends a lot of his free time with. She has a car and usually picks him up from my house most afternoons and then brings him back later on in the evening. So in my mind, this is probably why Ruben seems so distant. Well, one day I come home from school and Ruben's already home from work, just hanging out by himself in the basement. I go straight to my bedroom. So I'm in my room and I notice that Ruben has been in here at some point and had gone through a bunch of my stuff. Not sure what he was looking for or if he had taken anything from me. But for the first time during our friendship, I'm really pissed off at him because I had specifically set boundaries for him to not go into my bedroom when I wasn't there. So I immediately go and confront him about this. And he doesn't deny it. In fact, he just kind of laughs about it. Now, I'm really taken back and hurt by this. And I say, Ruben, all I've tried to do is help you. And all I've asked of you is to just respect me and my boundaries. He just completely dismisses what I'm saying and then says something to the effect of, well, what are you going to do about it? I can't believe he's actually talking to me like this after all that I've done for him. And now he's blatantly disrespecting me and challenging me in my own house. I feel the anger starting to rise up. No one else is home, it's just me and Ruben. So I tell him, wait here, I'll be right back. I'm pretty sure he knows I'm angry with him. So I run to my bedroom and I grab my gym bag that has some sparring gear from my years of martial arts training in Taekwondo. I've had a lot of experience competing in sparring tournaments, and I happen to own more than one pair of sparring gloves. So I run back to Ruben and I hand him a pair of gloves. And he's just amused by this and says, "You really want to box me? I don't want to hurt you." I'm already putting my gloves on, so I just tell him, put the gloves on. He's in disbelief. Ruben is 6 feet tall, weighs around 200 pounds. I'm 5'7" and weigh around 125 pounds back then. Even though most guys I know would be afraid of Ruben, I know that he doesn't have the experience or the speed or the skills that I have. So he puts the gloves on and waits for me to make the first move. I get into a fighting stance, and Ruben just kind of squares up with me like a big target ready for me to hit. So I touch him with some light jabs to the face, and that's enough to get him to just start swinging wildly at me. I dodge everything that he throws, and I just keep picking him apart with jabs. This goes on for about a minute or so. But I start to feel bad because I'm snapping his head back with all these jabs and he's not able to land a single shot on me. And I'm not even throwing any power shots at him. He's also pretty winded at this point, so I just stop and I say, "Hey man, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm your friend. but you have to respect my boundaries. So he apologizes to me, and we shake hands, and so now we're good. Things seem better between Ruben and I after this. He's still distant, but at least he's treating me with this newfound respect. So about a week later, one evening, Ruben was hanging out in the basement while I was hanging out on the main level with my younger brother. My dad was in the kitchen making us dinner. Dad tells me that dinner is almost ready and wants me to let Ruben know. So I holler downstairs to Ruben. I'm pretty sure he can hear me, but he doesn't respond. A few minutes later, my brother and I were sitting at the table, just waiting for dinner, and we see Ruben coming upstairs from the basement. His movements are strange, and it catches our attention. He has these slow, almost mechanical-like movements and no expression on his face. I say something to him, but he doesn't respond or even look at me. So he sits down at the table across from me with just a blank stare on his face. But I notice there's an upside-down cross carved into his lower forehead, and it's cut perfectly straight and centered. No sign of blood around it. So I ask Ruben about it, and he just ignores me. My brother's also trying to get a response out of him, but he's not responding to him either. And Ruben's not even blinking his eyes. So I clap a couple inches from his face like this. Still no response. About 30 seconds after that, Ruben, with his strange movement, stands up. He slowly walks over to the front door, opens it, and walks outside, leaving the front door wide open. It's around early March, so it's cold and dark at this time of the evening, and there's about a half a foot of snow on the ground from a big snowstorm that we just had a couple days ago. Ruben's only wearing a t-shirt, jeans, and some socks. No shoes, no jacket. So my brother and I, we go over to the door to see where he's going. Ruben walks out into the middle of the front yard, drops to his knees in the snow, and he raises his right hand in the air with his fingers all pointed together, making a knife hand. And then he thrusts his hand into the snow and starts carving something. My brother and I, we close the front door and we go and sit back down at the dinner table. A few minutes later, Ruben comes back in the house. He looks cold, wet, and confused. He says, "What just happened?" And I say, "Well, we were about to ask you that." So he tells us that he had just found himself kneeling in the snow in the front yard, but didn't know how he had gotten there. We just kind of shrugged. And he goes back downstairs to dry off, and he comes back up and joins us for dinner. Nothing further was discussed, and everything seemed normal after that. So the next morning, I'm warming up my car before leaving for school, and I notice a large symbol carved in the snow in the front yard. It's a large circle, about 15 to 20 feet in diameter. And inside the circle is an elaborate symbol consisting of several straight lines and curved lines. And it looks really weird to me, but I'm impressed that Ruben was able to do all this with just his hand in a matter of minutes. Even though I don't know what the symbol is, it would be decades later that I realized that this is actually what's called a sigil, or a magic symbol. I'll give some examples and talk more about that in part 4. But Ruben moves out of my house just a few days after this incident. He found another friend who he could live with temporarily. I was happy I could reclaim the basement and now sleep in my room again. The negative energy that I had felt down there was gone now that Ruben was out of the house. So I live in this house for the rest of the year, and then I go on to live at my mom's house in 1996. Even though I don't have any further encounters with the Hat Man, I go on to encounter what I would call shadow entities at my mom's house and at the first place that I live at on my own. I'll share those encounters with you in a future episode about shadow entities. In the next episode, part 4, I'm going to analyze my experience with the Hat Man and try to make some sense of it, now almost 30 years later. But thank you for joining me and allowing me to share my story with you. I'll see you in the next one.